Hey, this is Samantha here from RecipeThis.com and the voice behind the popular Kitchen Gadgets podcast, Magic with Gadgets. Today I want to show you just how easy it is to cook lamb kofta kebabs in the air fryer. Well, before we dive into this recipe, I just wanted to suggest that you head over to RecipeThis.com. We've got more than 1,200 kitchen gadget recipes, including recipes for the air fryer, instant pot, slow cooker, soup maker, bread maker, microwave, Ninja Foodie, and many others. We also have a free weekly newsletter, which you can find on the homepage of RecipeThis.com, or you can find it on RecipeThis.com/newsletter. And there you can get our best kitchen gadget recipes sent to your inbox every Friday morning. If you've not made lamb koftas in the air fryer yet, then you're missing out because they are absolutely delicious. And something that I've been cooking in the air fryer for years whenever I have some spare lamb mince in the fridge that needs using up. So for ingredients, you will need the lamb mince. Ours is about 500 grams. And as well as a mixing bowl so that you can make it easy for mixing them together. I recommend a dessert spoon, even though most of the ingredients here are teaspoons, because it's easier to get them on the spoon and not overfill them or spill them. And for seasonings, we're talking cumin, mixed herbs or bouquet garni, mixed spice, turmeric, a little bit of cayenne pepper, so a little bit of curry powder, some coriander, as well as salt and pepper. So you want to start by doing the seasonings first, because then it saves you touching them with dirty lamb hands. So you just go one by one and start adding in your seasonings. That's not broken down very well there, so let's just make sure it's not too much, then that will be all right. Ground cumin. I don't know about you, but I absolutely love the smell of ground cumin. And I choose to use bouquet garni because the mixed herbs that M&S sells, where I get my herbs from, have ingredients in it that my husband's allergic to, so we go with that instead. So you're very welcome to mix and match the ingredients depending on what you have in and depending on if there's any herb or spice allergies in your house as well. And you can use either tandoori or some curry powder. I haven't actually got any tandoori in at the moment. I didn't want to buy it just for one recipe, so I'm using curry powder. And then the ingredient that I recommend you use a lot less of, and that's the cayenne or chili flakes or whichever. Oops, it always comes out way too fast with the cayenne for me. But yeah, I only recommend a tiny bit when you're using cayenne, especially if you're speeding kids. But if you like your food spicy, you can double it, you can triple it. It's totally up to you. After all, they're your lamb koftas. And then that leaves the coriander. You can use either coriander leaves, which is what we're using here, or you can alternatively use a ground coriander. Both just as nice, or if you're in the US, that's cilantro. And then, of course, plenty of salt and pepper. And then that's your main ingredients. And then, doesn't that look pretty, all those different seasonings? And then give it a mix. Oh, and I just love the colour from the turmeric. And then once you've done that, it's ready for your lamb to be added in. I recommend moving your seasonings out of the way. And a quick tip is when you're actually doing your lamb, it's often quite wet when you're packing it up for the freezer. Double bag it and it'll stop it leaking everywhere. We never learn our lesson and ours always leaks. And then pour in your lamb. And then it's a case of getting in with your hands and mixing it all together, making sure you're getting an even spread of the seasoning, because you don't want one bit of kofta with loads on and then a bland other bit. So I just recommend giving it a good mix. And And then go to the middle bits as well, make sure the middle bits are nicely covered. And then have a look with your hands, and you can see, that's the great thing about turmeric, is you can see which bits haven't been mixed and which have. For example, I can see a big chunk of it there where it's just really turmeric-y. And then once you've done that, it's ready for you to make them into kebabs. So now you've mixed up your kebabs, it's time to actually turn them into kebabs. So I recommend just a clean chopping board and to put your mixture onto there. The easiest way to describe it is to imagine that you're doing something the shape of a sausage. So you're aiming for it to be like a decent sized sausage. And what I often end up doing is I end up playing about with it a bit as I'm trying to get them to a similar size. So sometimes I end up taking off one to make an extra one, depending on how many I'm doing. So it's just a bit of patience and then getting them into the correct size. If you head over to recipethis.com, we've got a free printable recipe card with this recipe. And what we actually used on there is we actually had some kebab skewers. So if you've got kebab skewers, you can actually put them on those in the air fryer in this shape, and they're just fantastic. But we moved house, well, we moved countries, and we got rid of a lot of things and we didn't bring them with us, unfortunately. But if you have got something like that, then it's fantastic. And this is also an opportunity, as you're mushing them up into sausage shapes, to make sure your seasonings are spot on with being mixed together. So if you look, they're coming together nicely. And it depends on how big you want them, to how many you'll actually be able to fit into your air fry basket. I mean, we're demonstrating today with our Philips Air Fryer XL, but you might have a smaller or a bigger air fryer. So if you look here, it's like you could squeeze this out, take a few off each and turn it into 8 if you want, but I don't think it's really going to do 8 because this one's quite small. So those are 6 good ones. Can we squeeze a 7th maybe? I know 7's a weird number, isn't it? You know, it's always 6 or 8, isn't it, when you're making things in the air fryer, or even 4s for when you're doing 4 burgers. But it's just based on how much mixture I've got there from 500 grams. Because what I do is I'll buy lamb from the butchers and I'll buy about 3 kilos, and then I'll separate it into Ziploc bags and then freeze it for when I fancy something like this, or if I fancy a doner kebab or some lamb burgers or lamb meatballs, it's just ready to go. So there's the 7. So all you need to do now is actually cook them in the air fryer. Or if, let's say, you've got a busy day, you can make ahead these like this, cover them in some foil or some cling film and place them in the fridge all day, and then just cook them when you need them tonight. It's just totally up to you. Just totally up to you. So once you've got the air fryer basket out, see how many you can fit in yours. I'm always having this fight with my Philips of only just managing to fit in what I want in it. So yeah, I can just do my 7. Don't beware, you know, we're talking lamb here. It's a fatty meat. There is a chance that it will set off your smoke alarm. I'm not sure whether it'll do that with ours. We'll have to wait and see. But it does do it from time to time, depending on how sensitive it is. So kind of expect that when you're doing them in the air fryer. And then, once they're in the air fryer, you're looking for a temperature of 180 Celsius, that's 360 Fahrenheit, and a cook time of 8 minutes, and then we can check on them. And then press start. And we've beeped. So this means that the lamb koftas have now done 8 minutes on one side. They've not set off our smoke alarm, even though the kitchen has been smoky, so we've opened up all the windows, which I'm sure will help the situation. But it seriously can't be helped when you put fatty foods in the air fryer. Lamb and sausages are the biggest ones for it, unfortunately. Never had a problem with chicken though. So now it's time to turn them. You can use a fork to do this. And then last one. But let me show you something whilst they're still cooking. Now this is the amount of fat that it generates at the bottom, and that's what you're talking about when you're cooking lamb in the air fryer. So you know, if your smoker lamb keeps going off, the best option is to get the air fry food out and to empty out the bottom of the basket, any of the fat, and give it a quick wipe down, and that will solve the problem. And of course, opening windows always helps. And of course, if you head over to recipethis.com, we've done a podcast episode about why does my air fryer smoke so much. So if you are having that problem, I recommend you going over and have a listen of that. So now we've done 8 minutes. So we're now doing the same again, but on the other side. So 8 minutes, 180 Celsius, that's 360 Fahrenheit. And then when the air fryer beeps, they'll be done. And we've beeped. So shall we check on our koftas? And wow, those koftas are perfectly cooked. And you can hear the sizzle on them. And let me show you again what the fat is like from the lamb koftas. That is the bottom of the air fryer basket. And this is what's worth noting about the air fryer is it's kind of a bit like that healthy grill, that it'll collect all the fat at the bottom, so that's not on your actual food. But again, remember about the smoking issue if that's a problem for you. And then you can just load them onto a plate. You can see what I mean by the fat that comes off it. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to wait a minute or two for them to cool down before I can tuck in and try them. And now they're cool enough for me to tuck in. These koftas, absolutely delicious. If you love your Indian food, I recommend you do yourself some of your favourite Indian dip and the Indian takeaway, and then dip these koftas into them, or serve them in a pita bread or with some naan bread, and they'll be absolutely lovely. Thanks so much for watching, and don't forget to subscribe to the Recipe This family. You can find us on Twitter, Facebook and Pinterest. We also have a weekly newsletter at recipethis.com/newsletter, where we share with you our latest kitchen gadget recipes, what we're cooking in the Milner kitchen, and so much more. As well as this, we recommend that you subscribe to our YouTube channel, and then whenever we have a new video, you will be the first to know. And if you want to know about all our future videos, then I recommend you hit the bell for instant notifications. But even better, we now have a podcast. It's called Magic with Gadgets. Simply search Magic with Gadgets on your favourite podcast player and you'll find us there.